Welcome, everyone. We're going to give it just a moment to allow folks to enter into the meeting from the lobby. Thank you. My name is Michelle Cunningham, Marketing Outreach at the Healthcare Workforce Development. We are excited that you have joined us this afternoon. If you attended the morning session, the same information will be presented this afternoon, so there's no need to attend both. Before we begin, I would like to discuss a few housekeeping items. The webinar will be recorded. The chat option is open now and will continue to be open for the duration of the webinar. We will entertain questions in the chat during the Q&A session, which is at the end. In addition, during the Q&A, your mics will be enabled and you will be able to raise your hand to ask questions. This slide deck is posted on our website on the Song Brown page, and the webinar recording will be available on this page in a few days. Thank you. I am thrilled to introduce our presenter, David Winston, Program Officer with the Healthcare Workforce Development.
Thanks so much, Michelle. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. I'm very happy to be with you all and excited to be talking about the new grant application cycle that has just opened. And I'm sure I've worked with many of you already online over email, but happy to be with you more in person in a way. And yeah, happy to go over this and answer any questions you may have as we discuss the application process. Also want to introduce my colleague here, Crystal Flores, who is the former FNP/PA program officer, now works with RN. She has a lot of familiarity with this grant process. So for any questions that I can't answer, I'm sure she'll be more than capable of helping you out, as well as my manager, Melissa, who is on the call as well, who can also help answer some of these questions. But without further ado, let's get started. So first, I'd like to talk a bit about our Song Brown program. Song Brown provides funding to education programs. These include family nurse practitioner and physician's assistant training programs, registered nurse education programs, family medicine, internal medicine, pediatrics, OBGYN, residency programs, and as of just this year, licensed midwifery and certified nursing midwifery training programs. Song Brown provides financial incentives to programs, to graduate individuals who practice in medically underserved areas, to enroll members of underrepresented groups in medicine to the program, to locate the program's main training sites in a medically underserved area, and those who operate a main training site at which the majority of the patients are Medi-Cal recipients. I wanted to go over our application dates, so you know when to apply, when to submit your applications. So as I'm sure you know, our application is now open, and it's been open as of July 18th. So some of you may have gotten in there. If you haven't already, that's totally fine, that you have plenty of time to work on this. But we have a new function to our applications now where we're doing early submission review, which will be on August 16th. So if you submit your application by that date, then you have the added bonus of having myself, your program officer, to review your application and to see if there are any issues in it and any discrepancies. And if so, I will then send it back to you and let you know what you need to change in order to submit it without any issues. That is only offered for those who submit your application by August 16th at 3 p.m. You're still able to submit your application afterwards up until August 30th, but if you do it past the 16th, you unfortunately won't have the benefit of myself, going over the application and seeing if there's anything to change, and then having that second round for you to adjust things. So it'll be the final submission up to that point. So if you are able to send it before August 16th, I highly recommend you do, because that will create a much bigger opportunity to deal with any issues there are and ensure that your application is good and you don't have any issues. So again, all of our applications open and close at 3 p.m. So make sure you submit before 3 p.m., either August 16th for the review or 3 p.m. August 30th for the final submission. Things to know before you apply. If your program requires approval to contract from a coordinating authority, please inform that authority of the terms and conditions contained within this grant agreement. Applicants must agree to the terms and conditions before receiving funds. HCI will not make changes to the terms and conditions specified in the grant agreement. Just definitely want to emphasize that these grant agreements are non-negotiable. Funding shall be used to expand primary care services, and then funds shall not supplant existing state or local funds to provide primary care services. We have some changes to our newest application cycle this year. We have, as I mentioned earlier, new funding opportunities for midwifery programs, both certified nursing midwifery and licensed midwifery. There's some changes to the scoring criteria. There's an increase in the number of students that are supported. We're now requesting training site payer mix, and we're reducing the types of training sites accepted. This year, we have up to $3,900,000 in funding available for F&P and PA training programs, and up to $1 million in funding for CNM and LM programs. We also have a new Song Brown email address to coincide with our change from OSHPD to HCI. So please jot this email address down. Our new main email address is songbrown@hci.ca.gov. Some information you'll need to gather to set up your application is your grant agreement and payee data record signatories. So make sure you know who those individuals are. The name and full address of your training sites used in the last academic year, if you were operational in the last academic year. Do not include any specialty or elective rotation sites. The facility type of each training site that you're reporting and that your program utilizes. Race and ethnicity data for all current students, and the high school information, such as the name of the school and the address for all current students. Additional information, the current practice site information for all graduates that you're entering, the National Provider Identification Number or NPI number for all graduates entered, and the applicable required attachments for your program. So, for instance, the program approval letter from the California Board of Registered Nursing for F&P, or the Accreditation Review Commission for Education for Physician's Assistant. For, I think, CNM programs, it's the Accreditation Commission for Midwifery Education, and then for LM programs, Midwifery Education and Accreditation Council letter. I'm sure you know your required approval letters for your program, so just make sure you have those letters all set up before you start this application process, because those will be required to submit. So let's talk about what to expect from the e-app or e-application registration. First, you'll need to create an account. So if you go to our website, you'll see at the top right this tab that says Create Account. If you don't already have an account, you'll click that. If you've set up an account before, you're a returning applicant, then you'll just sign in with your existing credentials. For the best experience, we recommend using Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge for your internet browser. Internet Explorer is not supported, so if you use that, you will experience issues. So try to download one of those internet browsers for the least likely chances of any issues. So when setting up your profile, you'll come upon this screen right here, and make sure that you check off the organization box. Don't check off either the healthcare professional or student boxes, even if you are a healthcare professional, because you're filling this out on behalf of your organization. And if you do click one of the other boxes, it will create issues with your application. So definitely remember to just click this organization checkbox. If you are a returning organization, or if your organization already has worked with us in the past, then you should be in our system, and you can find that if you click on this magnifying glass and you can search your organization name. If you don't see it there, but you have applied before, please get in touch with us. If you fill out new organization when you're not a new organization, that could create some issues. So definitely get in touch with us. We will help you find your organization name. Maybe it was listed slightly different than you remember, so that's something we can figure out with you. If you're a new organization, you'll then click Request New Organization. So again, most organizations are already in our system, so please try the magnifying glass first before setting up a new organization to avoid any delays. So if you are adding a new organization, you've never applied with HCI before or OSHPD, you would then enter the new organization name here. So once you've done that, to enter your address, you can then click on this plus select address button. That will get you to a new window with our geo system, which you'll then type in your address, and then it will find it in database and ensure that it's the correct address. It's not possible to manually add your address. That has been changed since the last time. This is just to ensure that all the fields are entered correctly. So your address should be in that system. Stone Brown staff will review the new organization request within 5 business days. So during this time, you can still begin an application, but please be aware that you can't finish the application until your new organization has been approved. All right, and then once you've done that, you'll see this blue window pop up that says your email requires confirmation, and you'll click Confirm Email right here to validate your email address for your account. Once that's done, stay on this page, and then you'll click on Profile, and you can set up your profile. So here, now we're in your profile, and you enter all required fields for your name and your title, your phone number, and your email that's associated, your work email. And just ensure you complete all of this accurately, because if it's incomplete, it could delay your registration. All right, so now once you've done that, you should receive an email thanking you for validating your profile. And if you are a program director, you will need to email us at that email address I mentioned before, songbrown@hci.ca.gov, after you set up your profile, to request that we give you program director permissions. This is very important because only accounts that have program director role in their title may initiate an application and submit an application. If you're a grant preparer, you're able to edit an application, but only after it's already been initiated, and you are not able to submit. So please make sure you do that as soon as you can to expedite the process. Yeah, and if you need to add grant preparers, that's very easy to do. Once you're granted your program director status, you'll see this box added to your profile to add a user. And this is how you assign additional grant preparers. So what you'll want to do is you're going to want to make sure all the people that are going to be assigned grant preparer status in your organization, make sure they set up their own profiles just the way we showed earlier. And then once those profiles are set up, then you can click Add User and then find them in the system, and then you'll add them to your account, and then they'll be on your grant preparer list. And that means that they'll be able to edit the application, pretty much fill out the entire form, except the submit part. Again, only the program directors can begin and submit an application. And you can have multiple grant preparers working on this, by the way. So if you have a few team members who are going to work on it, that's definitely possible. All right, so now that you've done that, you're going to go ahead and start your application. So you go to the Apply Here tab at the top of the website. and you'll see a number of applications. And our application is the second one right here, Song Brown, Family Nurse Practitioner, Physician's Assistant 2022. Just want to emphasize, this includes both family nurse practitioners, physician's assistants, as well as all midwifery programs. So licensed midwifery and certified nurse midwifery, all those types of programs would click on this application. Some helpful tips. On each page, you'll see a previous and a save and next button. The only button that saves your application process or progress is the save and next button. So for instance, if you are filling out a page and you realize you don't have some information, you need to go back to double check something. If you don't click that save and next button, all of your progress on that page will not be saved. So definitely make sure if you're going to double back in your application, make sure you at least click save and next first, go on to the next page of the application, then go back, because otherwise all of your progress on that current page will not be saved. And if you need to leave your application and come back to it later, that's very easy to do. Just sign back into your account. You'll go back to, you'll go to applications in progress / submitted at the top, and then you'll see your in progress application right here. And you'll click on this blue grant application number. And when you click on that, you'll get to your application and you just continue where you left off. Some useful symbols to look out for is asterisks. That means this is a required field that needs to be filled out. And tooltips. This is the blue circle with the question mark. This is going to be next to a lot of the terms in the application. If you click on it, it'll give you more information on that specific field and what it's asking for. All right, so starting your application, your program information will pre-populate with your information you entered from your profile. That's why it's very important to get the organization name correct right when you start off. And the organization name is not editable from this stage. So that's why it has to be, you have to confirm it from the profile creation. So once you have your program, your organization name, and all of this will be populated, make sure your email address is correct and all that, then you will go to your program type and you'll have 5 options here. You'll have the family nurse practitioner, physician's assistant, the combined FNP/PA program, and then you'll also have the licensed midwifery and certified nurse midwifery options. So just click the correct program type that you're applying for. And then you will fill out your training program title. So this is the official name of the school's training program and will be listed on the grant agreement. So make sure you use that official name. And if your training program already exists or it's from a previous cycle you've applied before, you're going to want to click on this magnifying glass, just like with the organization name. This is very important if you are trying to carry over data from a previous cycle. If you re-enter, write like new program, training program title, training program not listed, and you actually do have previous data, that means that all of your previous data will not transport over, and you won't. You'll have to re-enter all of that data. So to avoid that headache, I highly recommend clicking on this magnifying glass and then entering your training program title. If you can't find your training program, your previous training program, please reach out to us. We'll help you find it. And if your training program is not listed, if it's a new training program, then you'll check training program not listed. So if it is a new training program and you selected that box, then you'll get this new field. The name must list the school followed by the program type. So for example, if your school is University of the West and you're applying for an FNP program, you would put University of the West, comma, FNP program. If you're University of the West and it's a licensed midwifery program, you'd put University of the West, comma, LM program. And then you'll click on the select address button, and then you'll have to fill in your address in the search bar geo system, and then it will find what it thinks the possible addresses could be, and you click the right one, and then it'll auto-populate the rest of the fields. And then you confirm, and your training program will be now listed. Now we get on to contract administration. So before completing this page, you must verify that the information with your contracts or finance office is accurate. If there's any incorrect information on this page, that could lead to a significant delay, so you don't want that to happen. So make sure that all of this is accurate as to who your grant agreement signatory is, who your payee data record signatory is. The grant agreement is the signatory, the person who's authorized to enter into a grant agreement on behalf of your organization. The SDD 204 signatory is the payee data record signatory. This is the representative in your organization with expertise on tax reporting for your organization who will handle that aspect of the grant agreement process. So in some instances, this is the same person. In others, these are two different people. Depends on your organization, but make sure that this is correct and accurate, because otherwise it could lead to a delay. All right, and more information on this page. So now you'll enter the legal address for your organization. This address must match what you have with the IRS records. So make sure this is the legal address on your tax documents. And you will use the street address lookup. If it's a physical address, use that geo system I was mentioning earlier. If it's a PO box, then you'll just click yes, it's a PO box, and you'll enter your 5-digit PO box here. Otherwise, you'll click no, and then it'll give you that search function. Is the remit to address a PO box? Again, if yes, then you'll enter the PO box 5-digit number. If no, you'll have this screen. You click the select address, and then you'll fill that out. So that is also extremely important information. The remit to address is where we will send the grant funds. That's where the checks will be mailed out to. So you want to make sure that that is the correct address on file. And then finally, you'll enter the authorized representative for the payee information right here. That's the person who's authorized to receive warrants on behalf of the payee. All right, so you clicked Save and Next on that page. Now you're at the program description page. And this is where you'll provide executive summary description of your program, describe the primary care career pathways and pipeline activities your students participate in. I would recommend writing this out on a separate document just in case something happens that doesn't save, so you don't lose everything you wrote out. But also keep in mind that each box, you can only write a maximum of 2,500 characters, not words, characters per box. So if you do copy and paste it over, if it's over 2,500 characters, it will not save all of the data. It will stop. It'll cut you off at 2,500. So just make sure that you are within the limit so that you get your complete answer down. All right, so now on the program data page, you will select which data you'd like to report. So if you have both student and graduate data previously, you'll enter that. If you only have student data to report from the previous year, you would click this. And if you're a new program, never worked with us again, never had a grant with us before, then you would click this new program. So you're not importing any student or graduate data. So this is a very important question. Of course, if you are trying to get your information imported, you would definitely want to click this data or click this radio button. And would you like to import student, graduate, and training data from your last application? Yes. If you didn't apply last year, you would select no, even if you've applied in 2020, for instance, because it won't import that data directly because there's a gap, unfortunately. All right, so now we're on this section of the program data, and I want to clarify something because it's not exactly clear on this slide. So you'll of course, enter all of these fields, your total enrollment capacity, first year available slots, etc., for the 2020 and 21 academic year and the 2019-2020 academic year. It says here that the student data and graduate data must correspond with the student data page and graduate data pages that are coming next. That is only true for the graduate data page. So just remember that these two boxes here at the bottom, that should correspond with the graduate data page, which is a few slides from now. The student enrolled, make sure this information is correct, of course, but it will not correspond directly with the student data page. So if they don't match up, don't worry about it. It's asking for slightly different years, so that's okay. But if this information doesn't match with the graduate data page, it will not let you advance. So this is very important that you ensure that these fields are matching with the graduate data page, and it should be fairly easy to identify that. You would look at the 2019-2020 field and see if that number is 140, and then the 2020-21 field on the graduate data page and see if that number, in this case, is also 140. And if those match up, then you'll be able to advance. Okay, so now we're on training sites. If you are importing sites, you've applied before and you chose to import that training site data, then that data will show up here in the training sites with errors. It doesn't mean that there's anything necessarily wrong with your data. All data imported will automatically show up in this field. All it means is that we want you to review each before you move on. So to do so, you will go to this arrow drop down right here, and you'll select Edit, and then you'll go through all the fields, make sure everything is correct, and then if all fields are correct, you'll click Yes, and then it'll move down here in green to training sites with no errors. So if, for instance, you don't have that training site anymore, then you would just delete it, which you can also do by clicking this drop down. So you can both edit or delete. Please make sure you move all of your training sites that you'd like to report, review them, and then make sure they show up here in green. Otherwise, they will not be scored. To add a new training site, you would click at the top of that section, Add a Site, and a new window will populate, and then you can enter the information here. While you're entering your training site information, you'll see the section that says facility type. So you'll have to identify the exact type of facility. This is very important for scoring criteria. If you're not sure what type of facility your training site is, we have links with more information here in this drop-down. So you'll just click here and a bunch of links will populate that you can get some more information on this. We also have these tooltips next to the facility type that gives a little description of each facility type so that you can get some insight into if this is the correct one for you. You can have your facilities can match more than one facility type, so you would select all that apply or none of the above. And then we're also, as mentioned before, we're now asking for payer mix information, which you'll have to get from each of your facilities. So you'll have to see the percent of patients that are Medicare, Medicaid recipients, Medi-Cal, or uninsured. All of these numbers, all these percentages don't need to add up to 100%, but they can't add up to over 100%, of course. And then after you've completed all of this, then you would just click the Submit button. All right, now we are on the program expenditures and funding section. This is where you will itemize all of your expenditures for your requested grant. So it's broken down into these categories: personnel, operating expenses, major equipment, and other costs. If you're unsure as to which category your expense fits under, there's a tooltip next to each that gives more information. For instance, major equipment is equipment that's over $500, but you'll be able to get much more information if you click on these tooltips, and you'll be able to figure out which one is which. Your total amount will automatically add up here. Just add up all of these fields, and that total expenditure must be equal to or greater than the max funding amount for your program. So for instance, we wouldn't give more funding than your program requires, than the total amount of funding your program uses. And the max funding amount is corresponds to the number of students in your program. So out of your currently enrolled students, if you have up to 50 students, you'll be awarded a maximum of 144,000. 50 to 75 students, 168,000. 76 to 100, 216,000, and 101 or more, 240,000. And this is a capitation agreement, so your per student capitation rate would be 12,000. And once you've entered all that information, you click Save and Next. All right, now we're in the student data section. So if you did have previous student data, that should populate here in the errors section. Just like with your training site data, you're going to want to go through each of those. You're going to want to edit and make sure everything checks out. At the bottom of the new field that will show up, it will say student data reviewed, and you make sure you click yes. And once you do so, it'll then show up in green and it'll say students with no errors. Make sure you fill out all of the student data on this sheet. Anything that's left in red will not be included in your scoring. So make sure that it moves on to the students with no errors. NPI numbers, for instance, and practice specialty are optional for students. So if you don't have that information, it's not required. All right, so if you're not importing students or you're adding students, then you would just click Add a Student at that top button, and a new window will populate. And this is where you will fill out students' information, their high school. You provide the home address for all students that were homeschooled, for instance. So if it says student high school not applicable, you would say why if they were homeschooled or something like that. Right. Review new students. So to review your students, just as before, you would click here and click Edit. Or if you want to delete a student, then you would just click here and click Delete. Yeah, and then you would just go on to Save and Next. Your graduate data operates roughly the same way. It'll all show up here in the Errors section, and then you just have to go through each, click this drop-down, click Edit, and then make sure the data checks out, and then it would say graduate data reviewed, and you would click yes. This is the page I was referencing earlier that has to match the program data page. So that, for instance, the 2019 and 2020 data on that last page, the graduate students, it was 140. So you would make sure that there's 140 here. If it was 2020 and 2021, if that was 170 on the program data page, you would make sure it's 170 here. So if that doesn't match, then when you click this bottom button here, I'll grab submitted, it checks that data, and then it'll let you know if there's a discrepancy. And if so, it will not allow you to progress. So I would when you're on that program data page and on that last row, the last two columns, write those down just to make sure you have it with you. When you get to this page, make sure those numbers correspond with this page. And as I mentioned with the student page, the NPI number is not required. For graduate data, NPI number is required. So you'll want to make sure you have that information. Also, if your student is an HPEF scholar or NHSC recipient. And if you're unsure what those are, there's a tooltip for each of them. Okay, so if you need to review, you would just click Edit. If you need to add graduates, you click Add Graduates, just like with student data. All right, so for your graduate data, when you're getting to the Add a Practice Site, you have to add practice site information for all graduates. If your graduate is working in California and you know their practice site, then you would select yes for do you know the graduate's practice site, and then you would enter the practice site's name. If the practice site is not listed in our system, or you don't have it, then you just say practice site not listed, and then you'd enter the practice site name. For each site, and I should mention, if their practice site is out of state, then you would put no, and you would say an out of state practice site. For each site, you have to identify its facility type. So again, facility type is very important for scoring. So make sure that is accurate. And if you're unsure what the facility type is, we have these tooltips and also links under the More Information tab. If your graduate is out of state, working outside of California, then you would just select no, as I mentioned in this section, and it'll create a new drop down where you can click out of state. Some common application errors we've come across. So if the program puts an incorrect signatory, so they provided the wrong signatory for the grant agreement or the STD-204 payee data record, that could create a big issue when issuing the DocuSign. So make sure you verify with your finance department or contracts office before submitting the application to ensure this information is correct and we don't have any delays. If there's any incorrect or missing required documents, that could be a major issue. So just ensure you have all the documents required before you submit. And as I mentioned earlier, facility type is very important. If you have the wrong facility type mentioned, that could lead to a significant delay, and it could also impact scoring. And if you have an outdated remit to address, well, that's the address where your checks are sent. So you definitely want to make sure that address is accurate if you want to get your checks on time. Another issue is the wrong training program is named. If you entered a new training program title for a program that already exists, the proper course of action is you use the search function to find the exact name of the training program title that was already used in a previous application, or it won't import any of the data. So as I said before, if you're not sure if maybe you're taking on a new position, you're not sure if that information's in our system, just get in touch with us. We can check for you. If there's any missing data in the application, so if you didn't include all your training sites or student and graduate data, that could lead to a delay. Or if there is an inconsistency in the data, that could also create a problem. So one of the last things you have to do for your application submission is you have to attach your required approval or accreditation letter. That letter depends on what your program is, so make sure you determine what the required accreditation is for your program. If it's a licensed midwifery program, it's going to be different than if it's a FNP program. So just make sure you have that ready to go before you work on the application, and then you will just attach it to the application. And for all of your attachments, they have to be titled in this format. It has to start with APPR underscore. The remainder can be, whatever is relevant, APPR underscore, accreditation, whatever you want to call it, it's fine. But just make sure it's the required document. If you're a combined FNP and PA program, you actually have to submit 2 documents, accreditation for both FNP and PA. All other programs will only submit 1 document. And of course, you're also able to submit any other relevant correspondence here, but that's not a required field. And then once that attachment is uploaded and successfully, this will turn from red to green, and you'll see the document attached right here. If you accidentally attach the wrong document, you can click on this drop down and you can click delete and try again. The final page of the application is the assurances page. You'll read the certify statement that says I certify that the information herein is true. You check the I certify box and then you can submit. Please keep in mind that only program directors can get to this stage and submit. If you are a grant preparer, you will not see this button and you will not be able to submit your application. And also, once you submit your application, there are no other edits that you can make to that application. The only caveat is if you submit before August 16th, I will then review it. If there are any issues, I'll let you know, send it back to you, allow you to make those changes. But otherwise, that's your final chance. So make sure you review everything before you submit. And then, yeah, once you submit, then that will be it. And you'll see this screen that says, thank you for submitting your application. You can then go back to the e-app and you'll see if you click on that tab again, applications in progress / submitted, you'll see this again, except this time it'll be, instead of blue, it'll be black and you won't be able to open it anymore, but you will be able to view or print your application. If you'd like a physical copy or a PDF, you can do so. I would recommend keeping that for your records. And I think, yeah, that'll be it for that application process. Now moving on to DocuSign instructions. This will be the next stage of the process when everybody's signing the grant agreement once we've approved your application. You must confirm your signatories with your contracting office before submitting your application, as said before, to make sure we don't have any delays. The agreement will be routed for signature through DocuSign, which is a process for getting digital signatures. And they'll send out an email and they'll send it to your grant agreement signatory and payee data records 204 signatory. DocuSign emails must be sent directly to the agreement signatory and payee data signatory email addresses. So this is very key. Please put your individual email address from your organization. So if your name's Jane Smith and you go to UCX, you will put janesmith@ucx.edu. Do not provide a shared email address such as provost@ucx.edu or contracts@ucx.edu. This has created problems in the past with getting through the DocuSign process and making sure that they can fill it out. So to avoid any delays or any issues, we highly recommend your personal email address with your organization. Signatories should check their spam or junk folder if they can't find that email from DocuSign, as some systems may flag those as spam. And signatories cannot edit any documents in DocuSign. You can only sign off on them. No edits are allowed. As stated before, these are non-negotiable contracts that just have to be signed as is. To receive the grant, you must accept all agreement terms as provided. Each signatory, as designated on the application, will receive a DocuSign email specific to their role. So again, that'll be the grant agreement signatory and the 204 signatory. Only the designated signatory can open that email, otherwise the link will be invalid. So you can't forward the email or CC it on DocuSign emails. However, designated signatories can download a copy of what they sign. DocuSign links will expire within 30 days of the DocuSign being sent out. So please keep in mind that's 30 days for the entire process. So that's HCI representative signing and your representative signing. It's not 30 days per individual. So we definitely recommend signing within the week that you receive it to avoid that 30-day window expiring and then having to, because then otherwise we'd have to start the process all over again. Even if certain individuals signed it, if it doesn't get signed by everybody within that 30-day window, the entire process will have to start over again. So to avoid that and avoid any delays in administering your grants, we highly recommend signing it as soon as possible. And with that, that is our presentation. Thank you so much. If you have questions, feel free to ask now, as well as email us at songbrown@hci.ca.gov. And please put in your subject line your application number and program name. But with that, we'll take questions.
Thank you, David. I'm going to reiterate that the slide deck is posted on our website, link provided in the chat. Webinar recording will be posted soon on the Song Brown page. Please feel free to place questions in the chat. Also, you may raise the hand icon. You'll find the hand icon at the top of your screen with the reactions button. I will call on you as you're placed in the queue. Please, your mic will be enabled. You'll need to unmute yourself. To unmute yourself, the mic button is at the top of the screen. And when you're finished speaking, please mute yourself and lower your hand icon. We do have, let's see if we have anyone raising their hands. We do have a question in the chat, David, from Laura Conahan. The paired mixed data is the best way to gather that information to call the specific clinical site and speak to the office manager.
I would say yes, but I'll defer to Melissa to get some more information on that. Melissa, do you have some more insight?
I would agree with that. This is something new that we're asking of all the family nurse practitioner physician assistant programs. So if they don't know that off the top, you know, I don't want to say off the top of their head, but if that isn't something that they're privy to already, I would reach out to the clinical site and ask them.
Second question from Laura. Oh, I'm sorry, David, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just going to mention that that Laura also asked, do we still need to average the total clinical hours spent with number of underserved patients, or is this in place of that? Again, Melissa, I think you best to answer that.
I think that is still a requirement. This isn't replacing anything that exists in the application that existed in the application last year. Let's just say that this is new information that we are asking. So I believe that we're still asking about the average percent of time spent providing care.
Next question from Jana Russell. What is the time zone of the due date?
That'll be Pacific time.
And Kim Dow, David mentioned that the scoring criteria has changed. What is new about the scoring criteria? Thank you.
I can answer that, David, if you.
Yes, please.
The only thing that changed in the scoring criteria is we had to add in the nurse midwifery programs into the criteria. So we ask a question. One of the questions that we ask about is the pass rates. So we had to hold the midwifery programs into that question. I believe that's the only question that's changed.
Thank you, Melissa. From Shalitha Campbell, I apologize if I mispronounced your name. Is there a way for the PDF of previous applications to have a full detail of the information that was submitted?
Sorry, I don't quite understand. PDF of the previous application to do what? Yes.
I'm happy to come off mute if you like.
Oh, yeah,
Great.
yes, please.
Please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So in where you showed that where you can download the previous application in a PDF, I do recall that in the box of description, it doesn't capture all of the data. Like if you mentioned that there's only so many characters. So the PDF doesn't show all of the information if it hides underneath the box screen. So I'm asking, is there a way for that information to be fully seen in the printed PDF format?
Right, that's a very good question. So unfortunately, it's not now, but we're considering that for future application cycles. But we'd recommend for instances where it just gives the summary, it doesn't give all the detail, to just keep a record of that yourself. So again, like I recommended, I would make a separate Word document or some other document to write out all of those fields so that you can refer to them for future years.
Thank you, David. Chris Forrest has his hand up. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, quick question. Is there a way to batch import a number of the data into the system? I know this has been a question in the past. Yes, that's these.
Feature. Oh, sorry, David.
No, go ahead, Melissa. That's fine.
I was going to say the import feature that we have is is what we've come up with. In the past, some of the programs that have been around for a while may remember that we used to batch upload information, but then the programs had struggles with that as well. So the import feature, allowing you to carry over certain aspects of your application from one year to the next, is the best thing that we have come up with so far.
And just to add on to that, if you do have that information previously and you select yes to, pre-existing training site, carry over student data, et cetera, it should automatically batch that over. So you can choose which fields you would like to carry over and which fields you would not like to.
Thank you. We have time for some more questions. Either raise the hand icon or place in the chat. Okay. David, you want to give it about 1 more minute for any more questions?
Yeah,
Before we
sure.
wrap up? Okay.
Oh, somebody's typing something.
Yes. All right, from Lori Nicholson. Our registrar has expressed concerns about the personally identifiable information requested in grants, for example, MPI linked with race, ethnicity, and gender. Has HCI considered moving back to aggregate demographics to decouple sensitive information?
Crystal's gonna answer this one.
You are able to de-identify on your application. So some people use like a number or alphanumeric system. The only thing we ask is that if you do fill out your app that way, that you keep records so that you can tie the people to these codes as we carry forward with future cycles.
I can add to that. We are looking at maybe, because in the past, we've all race ethnicity information was provided in aggregate. And so we are rethinking that for future applications as well.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. I see Chris Forrest's hand is still up. I don't know if you have another question. Okay, thank you, Chris.
Any other questions?
Mhm. Well, I don't see any hand raised or anyone typing, so I'll turn it back to you, David.
Great, yeah, thanks, Michelle. Thank you all again for coming and spending your time with us today. Very excited to be working with you going forward. And please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. As you're going through the application, if you haven't opened it up yet and you'd like to use this opportunity to look through it, please let me know if there's anything you don't quite understand. I'd be happy to either email with you or speak with you on the phone to help figure it out. But yeah, looking forward to working with you all. Thank you so much for coming, and I'm sure we'll be in touch. Thanks again. Goodbye, everybody. Oh, and as Michelle said, this will be recorded and uploaded onto the website very soon. So please stay posted for that to be posted on the Song Brown website. Thanks again.